Hi, this is D. Knight. I want to make some comments on Trump's Riviera in the Eastern Mediterranean. It's inspired by my writing in the book A Realistic Path to Peace. U.S. President Trump made a fool of himself proposing to take over Gaza and make a Riviera in the Eastern Mediterranean. I want to add my little bit to the flood of disgust at this and explain why. Trump clearly isn't religious, and neither am I, but he should be reminded that Palestine is also known as the Holy Land, a sacred place to people of all religions. It's also sacred to the millions of Palestinians who have lived there in spite of constant efforts to exterminate them or drive them out, and they've lived there for thousands of years. A Palestinian man, Abu Firas, who lost his home in Khan Yunis in Gaza with 80 relatives who became martyrs during the U.S.-supported Israeli genocide, said, "We would rather die here than leave this land. No amount of money in the world can replace your homeland." Many Gazans have said they want help rebuilding, not a way out of their homeland. They are proud of a history stretching back thousands of years, and their spirit of optimism even in difficult times, and their commitment to education at more than a dozen universities and higher education institutes in Gaza, and more yet in the occupied West Bank of Palestine. The fact that Israel destroyed almost all of these university buildings doesn't mean the universities were destroyed, because they are living in the minds and hearts of the Palestinian people, and they will be rebuilt. Trump said, "We're dealing with a very complex group of people here, and situation and people, but we have the right man, the right leader of Israel. He's done a great job, and we have been friends for a long time." That pretty much says it all. Netanyahu is indicted for war crimes by the International Criminal Court, and Israel is accused of genocide by the International Court of Justice in a case brought by the Republic of South Africa and endorsed by dozens of other countries. Many people say the United States government leadership that facilitated this genocide should also be brought before both the ICC and the International Court of Justice. Before visiting Trump in the White House, Netanyahu announced he would be discussing Israel's so-called victory over Hamas with Trump. In fact, Hamas and its allies still control Gaza and have said they will not release more hostages until Israeli forces withdraw. The Palestinians have proven something that Trump needs to learn. It's not easy to remove a steadfast people from their land. The Vietnamese demonstrated that 50 years ago. It took them decades to do it, but they drove the U.S. invaders out after more than 3 decades of hard fighting. It's worth remembering what Ho Chi Minh said back then, that the Americans could destroy all of Vietnam, but we would rebuild it and make it many times more beautiful. At that time, back in the mid-1960s, the population of Vietnam was about 30 million. Today, it's very close to 100 million, and it is a thriving country led by the same group that defeated the United States, the Vietnamese Workers' Party. The current situation in Palestine is just the latest in a long history of resisting Zionist colonialism and genocide. It is part of a long-term intifada, a massive popular uprising to defend their dignity and get their land back. They will not give up. Their steadfastness has inspired the support of millions of people around the world and across this country. A majority of countries' governments have already recognized Palestine as a state, demanding it should have full UN membership. The first chapter of my book, A Realistic Path to Peace, is titled Restore Historic Palestine, End Zionist Apartheid. It reports on a protest at the United Nations in New York, November 20th, 2023. A contingent of true Talmud Jews carried signs saying Judaism condemns the state of Israel and its atrocities, and other protesters held placards saying, "Land back, restore historic Palestine, and from the river to the sea, single state now." This slogan is not anti-Semitic, but, as Representative Rashida Tlaib declared, it's an aspirational call for freedom, human rights, and peaceful coexistence. The group delivered a petition to the UN to revoke the UN partition plan of 1947, which created the State of Israel. It said the British mandate for Palestine at the end of World War I was never valid, and Israel's current escalation of ethnic cleansing and genocide against the Palestinian people of Gaza and the West Bank should be ended. It should be replaced by a single state, a unified nation that respects the rights, voices, and safety of all, regardless of religion or ethnicity. The call was an echo of the anti-apartheid movement against the racist colonial state of South Africa, which led to its dissolution in 1994, when African National Congress leader Nelson Mandela became president of the new Republic of South Africa. The parallels between the two struggles are many, including stubborn official U.S. government support and alliance with both racist regimes, which faced decades of struggle by the indigenous people of both countries with intense and ever-growing international solidarity. The petition presented to the UN November 20, 2023, includes the following demands: an immediate Israeli ceasefire, open the southern border of Gaza to bring in medical aid and fuel supplies for hospitals in Gaza, worldwide aid to Gaza refugees, free all Palestinian political prisoners held in Israeli jails, end all U.S. aid to Israel, military and otherwise, free all Israeli assets held in foreign banks, cut off all trade to Israel, to Israeli-held companies, demand Israel immediately dismantle and surrender all weapons of mass destruction in its possession, nuclear, biological, and chemical. It also calls for the arrest of Prime Minister Netanyahu, his immediate cabinet, leading members of the Israeli Defense Force, and any and all U.S. officials complicit in Israel's war crimes. It says such individuals must be remanded to the International Criminal Court for prosecution in the spirit of the 1945-46 Nuremberg trials. The petition says the UN should facilitate the creation of a new, single Palestinian state with recognition of the right of return to all Palestinians, including refugees from the Nakba who currently reside in other nations, as enshrined in UN Resolutions 194 and 302. There should be land restitution to all Palestinians, either in land or monetary compensation, and full and equal citizenship to all Palestinians in the new nation. There should be an enforceable timetable for enacting new elections and a new constitution for the new nation, including a Bill of Rights with universal guarantees for all citizens, regardless of ethnicity, race, or religion. All illegal settlements would be removed. In the interest of diversity and peace, current anti-Zionist Israeli citizens would not be expelled from the new nation's borders, but rather encouraged to stay and help rebuild should they so choose. The UN has condemned settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories in multiple resolutions, declaring them to be illegal under international law. Rabbi David Weiss of the True Talmud Jews said, "We feel a religious duty to denounce the state of Israel," adding that for 3,000 years, Jews and Arabs lived side by side in peace before the Zionists invaded. Without Zionist state violence, Jews and Arabs can live in peace in a democratic, secular Palestine, he said. Foreign Affairs, the flagship publication of the U.S. foreign policy establishment, ran a major article back in April 2023 titled, "Israel's One-State Reality. It's Time to Give Up on the Two-State Solution." It said Netanyahu's extreme right-wing government has shattered even the illusion of a two-state solution. It added that the temporary status of occupation of the Palestinian territories is now a permanent condition in which one state ruled by one group of people rules over another group of people. The Foreign Affairs article says a one-state arrangement is not a future possibility. It already exists, no matter what anyone thinks. Between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River, one state controls the entry and exit of people and goods, oversees security, and has the capacity to impose its decisions, its laws, and policies on millions of people without their consent. It notes that Netanyahu has written that Israel is not a state of all its citizens, but rather of the Jewish people, and only it. The man he appointed as Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir, has declared that Gaza should be ours, and that the Palestinians can go to Saudi Arabia or other places like Iraq or Iran. Pretty much what President Trump is saying now. Israel's one-state reality, the Foreign Affairs article says, reveals a situation of apartheid. The term refers to the system of racial segregation that South Africa's white minority government used to enforce white supremacy from 1948 to the early 1990s. It has since been defined under international law and by the International Criminal Court as a legalized scheme of racial segregation and discrimination and deemed a crime against humanity. Major human rights organizations, including Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, have applied the term to Israel. So have many academics. The Foreign Affairs article says the United States bears considerable responsibility for the one-state reality. And by the way, that goes for President Trump also. This is just a piece of what I have to say on the issue of restoring historic Palestine and ending Zionist apartheid. It's something that Trump should read, and I invite you to read it too. I look forward to your comments, and I encourage you to sign for my newsletter so we can exchange views more often. Thanks for your attention. Bye for now. I hope to speak again with you soon.